There are many ways out there to organize your collection. You can do it by Pokemon. You can do it by type. You can collect master sets or complete sets. But there's another, very fun way of storing your Pokemon cards. And that's by creating thematic pages. Hey everyone, welcome to the Collecting Rod. Today, I'm going to show you how I plan thematic pages in my binder. From coming up with an idea, to designing the layout, and seeing it all come together with real cards. I will also show you some alternative ways of accomplishing the same results with less effort and less resources. Let's get into it. I don't normally come up with a concept for a binder page or a series of pages out of the blue. What happens is that I will see a card that sparks some inspiration. And that can be a card that I just pulled, a card that I saw while scrolling online, or a card that's already in one of my binders. Specifically for this video, this card was Giovanni's Charisma. I have this card both in Japanese from my 151 complete set, which is currently a work in progress, and in English from some booster pack I opened. I was in the process of listing my English version on eBay when I had the idea of using it for a theme page. And the theme was, of course, Team Rocket. So the first thing I had to figure out is what types of cards I want to use for this. Do I want only full art cards? Does rarity matter? Do I only use English cards, or am I willing to mix and match? Some of these questions I could answer right away. For example, I have both the full art version of this card and the half art version of this card. So what I'm going to do is actually have two Team Rocket theme pages. One for full arts and one for standard cards. And I'm going to pay no mind to how rare cards are as long as I like them. And a little side note here. Having pages in your binder that only use normal cards and don't care too much about how rare they are is pretty awesome, because it makes the process of ripping a pack much more enjoyable, as you'll be looking for all kinds of cards, not just the rarest ones or the trendiest ones. So I would highly recommend this approach, even if you're also doing a full art page, as you get the same sense of accomplishment quicker for less money, and it can potentially make a pack with no hits an absolute win for you. Now let's talk about the card's language. I personally don't play the game, so I don't really mind not understanding the text in the card. But there is a point to be made for consistency. Some people might dislike having a collection where some cards are in one language and some cards are in another language. The quality and finishing of the card might also be different depending on where they were printed. So that's another thing to consider. In my case, I would prefer all the cards to be in the same language. In this case, English, as my Giovanni card is from an English pack. But having said that, if I find that the cards I want are much cheaper in Japanese, I will definitely go for those, as I don't have a huge budget and what I enjoy is the art. Okay, so I've decided to have two theme pages. One for full arts and one for standard cards. I don't mind how rare the cards are as long as I like them, and I also don't mind the language, although I would prefer it to be in English if possible. So now what? Well, now I start looking for cards that I like and fit the theme. I also like to place the images of the cards in a Photoshop template I made that resembles a binder page to visualize the result and make changes to the card placement, or even changing cards altogether if they feel out of place. If you don't have Photoshop or don't know how to use it, that's okay. Just download the images of the cards you want, open them all at once, and place them around your screen as you would in a binder. Now, let's start with the full art page. So far, we only have Giovanni. And in my head, I was visualizing having Jesse and James in the top row, as well as Meowth, because those are the main characters that come to mind when I think of the anime back when I was a kid. I know that there is a full art Jesse and James card that I really like, so hopefully it's not too expensive. As for the Meowth, I'm really not sure if it has a full art card, so what I would do in this instance is go online to a website like cerebi.net and find the list of all the Meowth cards that exist, and check the full art ones to see if I like any of them. In this case, there is only one full art card of Meowth, and apparently it's only in Japanese. Good thing we don't really care about language. I quite like it, and it goes very well with the Jesse and James one. So that's great. Now for the next 2 rows. My idea was to pick the most iconic Pokemon from Jesse and James. And with most iconic, I mean the ones I think were more relevant when I was a kid. So that would be Arbok, Wobbuffet, and Lickitung for Jesse, and Weezing, Victreebel, and Growlithe for James. Yes, Growlithe. If you know, you know. And again, I will follow the same process as before to find full art cards I like. So, the good news is that I found that all of Jesse's Pokemon have at least one full art card that I like. There's Arbok, illustration rare, and Lickitung, illustration rare from Temporal Forces, and Wobbuffet V from Sword and Shield. The bad news is that none of James's do. At least that I could find. Well, that's not entirely true. There is a Growlithe full art card, but it's not a standard Growlithe, which is the one I want. Also, at the time this video is recorded, there is a full art Weezing card in TCG Pocket. These cards have not been printed at the moment, but with the help of Etsy, we can at least get a nice looking placeholder for our binder. And for now, let's put a pin on this and we'll deal with Victreebel and Growlithe later in the video. Now let's repeat this process for these standard cards. Luckily, for this page there are plenty of cards to choose from. So the ones that I picked were Giovanni's Scheme from the Breakthrough set, Jesse and James from Hidden Fates, the Team Rocket's Meowth promo, Unbroken Bones Weezing, Arbok from Great Encounters, a Wobbuffet from Evolving Skies, 151's Growlithe, Lickitung from Fire Red and Leaf Green, and finally Victreebel from Guardians Rising. So I know all the cards I want for my binder spread. Now it's a matter of placing them in a way that I'm happy with. And different people will do this in different ways. For example, I could organize the cards by trainer, having all of Jesse's Pokemon in row 2 and all of James's Pokemon in row 3. And in fact, that was my first instinct. But when I finished placing them in my templates, something was not right. And I think what happens is that Lickitung's color are a bit out of place next to Arbok and Wobbuffet. So what I did was to move Weezing to the second row, which works nicer as all 3 cards have purple as the main color, and moved Lickitung to the middle of the last row. This also works in the half art page because now the second row has 3 Pokemon from the same type, the same color, and the third row is a bit more hectic, with all Pokemon from different types. Some people would be really mad that all cards in my half art page have yellow border, except Growlithe, but I'm not too bothered by that, and I can always change it in the future. I also noticed that the card that originally sparked this idea doesn't really fit in its place anymore. The colors are too warm, there's too much yellow. So I ended up looking for other full art Giovanni cards with cooler tones, and I ended up settling for the other Giovanni's Charisma from 151, which has darker red and purple colors that match the vibe of the page much better. Now that I'm happy with the design, I want to visualize it in real life. The issue with this is that I will rarely have all the cards I need after designing a page, and I usually won't have the budget to buy all of them straight away. So, I use placeholders. And of course, placeholders might be as simple as writing the name of the card, number and set on a piece of paper and stick it in the binder until you have it. But I find that this approach creates the urge to buy the cards as soon as possible, and the page is not that pretty to look at. So what I do is use the images I downloaded to create my mockup, arrange them in a new A4 document, and print them in black and white. I will then cut each individual placeholder and place it in a penny sleeve so that the ink from my cheap printer won't transfer to the binder. For the cards that don't exist yet, like the full art Growlithe and Victreebel, I created a template based on the iconic What's That Pokemon from the anime. And the only thing I need to do is find an image of the missing Pokemon with no background, place it on top of my template, and create a black overlay on top of it. I will then print it, this time in color, and place it inside a penny sleeve as well. After I have all my placeholders ready, I'll fill the pages with them and replace them once I get the real cards. And again, I understand that this might look like too much effort, and it really is, but it makes me enjoy the process more. and it gives me a temporary, tangible result I can look at and appreciate. If you don't have a printer and are more artistically inclined than me, you can try your hand at drawing the cards you're missing. I would 100% do that if I had any drawing skills whatsoever. And lately, I've been seeing some pretty cool handmade mocks on the internet. And if you don't really care about this part of the process, that's okay too. You can leave the spaces empty or just use a piece of paper. So the only thing missing now is to buy the cards. And there is no point for me to discuss prices at this point, because at the moment of making this video, some of these cards have surged in popularity and are now much more expensive. And that's okay, because the purpose of this video is not to give you a design that you can copy, but to spark some interest in you to design your own binder pages with the cards you like. I will also say that I did not get all these cards all at once. Some of them were more expensive than I could afford at the time, and I had to wait to get them. But that's why I created placeholders, to get a sense of how the page will look like, and not having an empty slot in my binder reminding me I need to get that card. So be patient. One of the nicest things about doing this is that you create a collecting goal for yourself that you can work through a span of time, and even if newer sets are hard to get, or other cards are going crazy expensive, you can always create these thematic pages with a smaller budget and still have fun. The only thing left to do is to compare our mockup with the real-life version of the spread. And it looks pretty close to me. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and it gets me really pumped for the upcoming Team Rocket set. If I can get a hold of it. We'll see. So what do you think about these pages? Would you have chosen different cards? Or maybe place them in a different way? Do you have any thematic pages or spreads in your collection? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, catch you later. Bye.